Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week's theme of unusual genre combinations, checking out the band Belmont, which I believe we have had on the channel before, and if I recall correctly, they were Nintendo core, that mix of post-hardcore with chiptune music. Today we're going to be looking at a music video for their track Bowser's Castle, and we do have some pretty cool pixel art in this music video, so that just adds to this whole old school chiptune kind of sounds that they have in their music. Let's dive in, see what Belmont is bringing to the table today. It's an odd time signature. I'm having a problem finding one, but I think we're looking at a 7-beat idea. This is 4/4, but that trap style hi-hat. That quick 16th note guitar part of the riff. Layered vocals, lots of tom work here. Low ends. I love the openness of this chorus. There's just so much space in it. The delay on that. So just the chords from the chorus and building out of this. Okay, that's kind of cool. I'm pretty sure that was the tom fill that we had in the second verse too. So it's kind of a cool way of like taking older ideas to help transition into this breakdown. Why push me off the edge when I'll just go jump off myself? Won't need your help, don't worry, I can sink or swim, no doubt. My thoughts are turning blurry, it's the fear of missing out. I don't think you understand the weight I used to drag around. I don't think you understand the weight I used to drag around. Yeah, I think that is 7. But I think what's odd about it too, let me play that back just 1 second. Yeah, so the weird thing about it is that it is fairly confident in a 7-beat phrase there. But it's also only 3 bars long. So you have an odd time signature and then an odd phrasing as well. 21 beat phrase is pretty I mean, it's not completely unusual, but we're working with oddities within oddities, which I think is what makes it difficult to figure out where one is. Because even when I kind of get a grasp of what the general cadence is, it still ends up wrapping up its idea and starting over much earlier than I expect. Very cool track though. I enjoyed a lot of this. The chiptune opening was fun. That fast part of the guitar riff in the verse is very fun. The consistent change and evolution worked well in this track. And I'm a big fan of these vocals. I'm a big fan of the guitar sound and the guitar riffs as well. The trap hi-hat beat was pretty cool. So there's a lot of things in here that appeals to me. But I think at the end of the day, it ends up sort of being a one listen track. I don't think there's a lot in here that pulls me back. It is fun, and maybe if I'm just in the mood for something light that I don't have to think about too much, I could put this on. But I also have a lot of other music that kind of fits this area that I gravitate towards more. So, and I think that's interesting too, because there really isn't a lot that stands out to me here in the realm of unusual genre combos. We do have the chip tune at the beginning, but it didn't really get used elsewhere in the track, which is kind of strange. I thought this was like, what was that other Nintendo Core band that we checked out around the same time y'all had me discovering Belmont? I don't remember. But I just remember the chiptune elements being incorporated more into the music. Because after we have the intro, we just kind of never touch on that again. And we go into this poppy metalcore thing, which I will say there's some interesting combinations in here. The trap hi-hat certainly sounds wild against the... yeah, how do I even call this? And I think that's part of the interesting thing about this. Is all of this feels rather comfortable to me. But it really is a few different genres. I mean, I'd say that the constant shifting between lows to highs, of slower sections to faster sections. I mean, just going off of that, I think it's a triplet cadence into that really quick descending line, the 16th notes there. To me, that feels very math rock, even though it's not really math. It's just 4/4, and it's a triplet set versus a descending 16th. So there's not a lot of mathy stuff to it, but it does feel like it evokes math rock. The vocals are very post-hardcore / pop punk, kind of mixes between the two of them, especially once you bring the harshes in. Definitely you don't get a lot of pop punk like that. So it's kind of metalcore in ways, where there's metal influence in some places and punk in others, but it also has a dash of rock thrown in there, and it's poppy at times, but heavy in others. And the breakdown at the end I thought was a really good combination of all this, being both poppy and upbeat while also heavy and gnarly. So it is a fun genre combination. I don't know if it's quite unusual, but it is fun. And I think there's some great ideas in here that kind of borrow from a few different parallel genres. Again, it makes a lot of sense for all this to come together, but I also can't say that I've heard this too often, at least these specific influences all coming together. So it's one of those things where I'm not quite sure if I personally would have selected this for the week. If I was on, the side of picking songs for a theme, I don't know that this would necessarily come to mind, because so much of it feels like it should work together, and a lot of it feels very familiar to me. A lot of these genres are what I listened to growing up. So from that perspective, I'm like, yeah, it's not really unusual. But like when I start to break down where some of these ideas stem from, there's a lot of influences thrown together in here too. With the intro and the outro being what they are, the only non-4/4 sections of the track, the only non-rock band instrumental sections of the track, I don't have much to say about them. They feel more auxiliary than anything else, just a nice way to transition into the track and out of the track. I don't think they add much to it, but it is an intro and an outro. To me, this track is mostly everything other than those two sections. Once we kick into the verse, the first thing I hear is that really quick, tight staccato hi-hat roll. And I wonder if that's triggered. It is really quick. If it wasn't triggered, then there's production going on in there. You can't make the hi-hat sound that crisp by yourself. Just the sheer idea of physics and vibrations as you hit one piece of metal and have it vibrating into another. You can't create stuff that short unless you're physically holding them even. I mean, maybe if you put a clamp around it or something to dampen the vibrations. I don't know, dude. But then you're gonna like mute the initial attack too. I don't think it's possible. So whether they're triggered or this is edited in post to create this sound, it's just not something that's gonna come across this specific way. You might be able to get very close, purely acoustic, but it's not gonna be this specifically. And it really comes down to the shortness of these notes without losing that initial attack. There's a brightness to the attack. It's not clouded, it's not dampened, but everything's like super short. Like you get the attack and then that's it. And it actually creates space between these really quick rolls on the hi-hat. And it sounds great. It sounds crisp. There is almost no overlap from one note to the, or from one hit to the other hit throughout the entire hi-hat roll. And it, to me, is what makes that trap hi-hat sound. It's the fast playing with space between all of them. There's almost a level of like inauthenticity to it, a hyper digitization of it that, I don't know, to me it just sounds great. But I also love highly produced sounds too. I'm sure if you come out music, particularly rock or metal, from a purely you've got to be able to make it live kind of perspective, and I don't like any production in my music, I want lo-fi raw stuff. Yeah, maybe you're not too big of a fan of this what might be described as overproduced sound, but to me it's just really crisp and it sounds phenomenal. It just tickles the brain in the right way. And that is paired with these driven guitar parts. Again, jumping from low to high notes. We have a couple of lower tones and then we start high and we descend from there. But we're also jumping between a slower quarter note triplets, I think, into this descending 16th. So we have massive contrast here on rhythmic or temporal side of things, but also on pitch and timbre a little bit too, as we're going from lower strings to higher strings, and they just have different colorings to them. So there's a lot of contrast going on just here on the guitar part alone. The drums are punky and syncopated as expected, and the vocals are bright, projected, forward placed, very pop punky. Pretty much everything here, aside from that really fast descending guitar line, fits well within a sort of mainstream kind of punk rock hybrid. It's very digestible though. And I was like, okay, this is a cool place to start. Where are we going to go from here though? And we kind of enter into that realm again of space, looking at the hi-hat and how I was talking about how the space between each hit really sells this feeling, this sound. And we kind of approach that same process in the chorus. There's a lot going on. The guitars are just constantly riffing in here. The bass is going, pedal note stuff. The drummer is kind of keeping some momentum going, kind of locking it down. A little bit of syncopation, but not as much as we had during the verse. But we also have these chords going on. Just kind of hit the chord, let it ring out, hit another chord, and then mute that one. And then there's just space here. And this is how most of the chorus exists. There's lots of noise off on the side from all these moving parts, but what is center, what you feel, is big sound, emptiness. Big sound, emptiness. And I love that. it just feels so good to create this space, carve it out, fill it in, and then carve it out again. I don't have any like thematic read on this or an artistic reason for why they might have done this. I think it just sounds great. And that's probably why they did it too, but maybe they've done an interview and it means something specific within the context of the lyrics. And yeah, if you've seen that somewhere, sure, link that. I'm all ears on that. But to me, I think from a sonic perspective, it just sounds cool. We hit the next section, and this is where I started to pick up on this idea of variation. The second verse is nothing like the first verse. It is just bass and bass kick and toms, all the low end stuff. And paired with that are harsh vocals. This is a very cool section for how much energy we have had. The vocals are a bit higher pitched. The guitars have primarily been looking at higher pitched sounds, like mid to higher range stuff. Like there's just been a very trebly focus on this track, and here in the verse it just drops and it's all low end. The bass gets a chance to shine with a quickly played section. The drummer gets to do this cool pattern. It's like all toms going up and down the kit. It's this nice cyclical element as far as the pitch of these toms are going. It is short-lived, but we come back to the chorus once again. And I think there's a third verse in there as well, because we hit the chorus another time pretty rapidly after this one too. I feel like the chorus came back with increasing, it came back faster and faster every time. It's like the amount of time between the chorus was shrinking as we were going through the track. But after whatever the third chorus, I think it was, we head into the bridge, and this is where variation comes in again, because we've ditched a lot of what the chorus was doing. But you remember those chords I was talking about in the chorus? You hold the note out, then you hit it again and you just mute it, and then you have this space. That same idea is what kicks the bridge off. Then we eventually bring in a tom run, which just talked about came from the second verse, and then we build a breakdown around this idea. Part of the chorus, part of a verse, and a new section to toss into all of this. And we have a cool little breakdown here that's just jagged, it's rhythmic, there's a little bit of melodic information in here, but primarily that's not the point of it. It's just supposed to be groovy and gritty. And then we put the chorus vocals on top of the bridge, the new section we just made. The final time through the chorus is a brand new section made from pieces of other parts of the track. Well, I mean, I guess one of the pieces did come from the chorus, but also with new ideas in it. We get a variation on the chorus entirely built up through the process of creating a bridge. I don't think this was a particularly strong part of the song. I'm generally not really about breakdowns too much. I do think this one had more melodic elements, which grabbed me, but it still felt like a section where it's supposed to be energy just for the sake of energy. I don't know. Breakdowns just don't make sense to me. It's like the whole song stops to just bottom out for a little bit. And it's just, I don't know. I've never really got the appeal to breakdowns. Regardless, though, I do love how this one uses that concept to break things down to a baseline idea, to build something new out of that, and then to return to something familiar. I'm really hoping the lyrics are looking at some sort of theme around this, of building back up, using pieces you're familiar with to create something that you're more that you're happier with where you weren't before. You can still use the pieces of the old that you enjoyed, but you get rid of what you didn't. That's what I get out of that, though. The entire bridge final chorus idea. But from that perspective, we also wrap the song up with the intro, which means we really haven't gone anywhere. And I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too deeply into it. I don't think I have much else to add to this. Like I said at the beginning, I really enjoyed this track. It's very familiar to me. It's a very comfortable sound for me to be within. And I just enjoyed most of the fun elements of it. Let's hit some lyrics on it. Now, I've been looking at these lyrics and trying to figure out what's being said here. The reason why I felt that there was a third chorus, but couldn't quite figure out why I couldn't remember a third verse is because that's actually how it is. We kick the song off with the chorus. So we have chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. So we do hear the chorus 4 times. It is nice that they give us a revamp of it on that final time. The chorus says, "Why push me off the edge when I'll just go jump off myself? I won't need your help. Don't worry, I can sink or swim, no doubt." We'll come back to that line. It says, "My thoughts are turning or running blurry. It's the fear of missing out. I don't think you understand the weight I used to drag around." The idea of just pushing yourself off into whatever, water maybe? I don't know. At the beginning, it feels as if they're being pushed away. It says, why would you push me off the edge? And he says, I can just do it myself. And I couldn't figure out what was going on here, but I think it's self-sabotage. The idea that he has a fear of missing out and of standing still and of not necessarily taking the opportunities he wants to take or thinks he should take, I think is the core conceit of this track. The first verse says, "I don't know how to break the fall. This time I guess I'll have to lose it all. I don't know what I believe, but I've missed out on opportunities. That's a guarantee." The second verse says, "Now for the longest of time, I believed that holding my breath would just fix everything. I didn't know how quickly that I would achieve and repeat the wasted possibility." So the concept here of wasting time, that's missed out on opportunities, and when they have presented themselves, our narrator has chosen to do other things. Repeatedly, always choosing the path of safety and comfort. There is one phrase that pops up a couple of times. I believe it says, "I'm so far away from home, but I've learned that's the best place for growth." Not necessarily a physical home, I think, but the idea of getting outside of your comfort zone where you are least familiar with things. And so the chorus, I think, is about saying, it's time I just jump. Sink or swim, let's see what happens. Instead of everyone else trying to push me outside of my comfort zone to help me grow, I need to do this myself. What that has to do with Bowser's Castle, I have no idea, unless they're saying that they need to go to one of the hardest levels of a world in order to test their skills, which is what Bowser's Castle typically represents in the Mario games. Yeah, actually, that's probably it right there. That's the one that makes the most sense to me, at least. Interesting track, though. I don't really get a lot of this from the music, but I did mention that the bridge into the final chorus felt like growing, removing what you didn't enjoy from the past, keeping what you did, and finding something new out of what you can build from that new foundation. And growth is a key element of this track lyrically. But otherwise, this is just a fun pop punk metal core track, mishmash hybrid, and it's just fun all the way through. And this lyrically, we're not really looking at much fun. So it's a case where I think they just create a type of music, and the lyricist wrote these lyrics and just smashed them together. All right, these are my thoughts then on Belmont's Bowser's Castle. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this track? Let me know. Put all of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add, into the comments section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link for Linktree. It'll take you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.